Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. We are up to episode number 43. I'm your host, Rick Jenkins, and as always, we are coming to you from the Drum Creative Studio. I am glad you found us. If you have been with us over the last couple episodes, you know that we have been talking about economic development and trends and wins and all kinds of stuff related to that. Just to give you a little update in case you haven't seen it, in episode 41, Max Stewart, who is the new CEO at the Greenville Area Development Corporation, joined us. He has only been on the job, or at that time, he had only been on the job for 92 days, coming to us from the Bradenton, Florida market. Check that out. That was a good interview. I also talked to Chris Rizzo. Chris is a principal at Clear Mountain Properties and a real estate investment guru. Lots of good information there. And then on episode 42, we talked to Jason Giulietti. He is the CEO at Central SC Alliance, and he told us all about what's happened in the Midlands. Today, we're going to continue the conversation on economic development with this guy. This is Dr. Larry Miller. He is the Vice President of Workforce Development, Learning and Workforce Development at Greenville Technical College. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Rick.
It is good to have you here. Today, Larry, we're going to be talking about the economic impact study that was just released by Greenville Technical College. Lots of really good information there about how Greenville Tech impacts the upstate of South Carolina. But before we get into that, tell our viewers and our listeners what you do.
Absolutely. So I am the Vice President of Learning and Workforce Development, which means in a nutshell, I'm responsible for our academic programs and continuing education programs at the college, where we serve about 24,000 students annually.
It's a big job. Workforce development is a big job. How long have you been at the school?
I've been at the school for 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where'd you come from before that?
I was in Florida, actually, and you mentioned Max Stewart, whose board I have the pleasure of serving on.
All right.
And I was just south of him in Naples and the Fort Myers area.
Okay.
Yes.
I lived in Fort Myers for 3 years, by the way.
Wonderful.
Yeah, I don't want to move back there. It has tripled in size since I left.
Indeed.
We
are having those same growth challenges here and opportunities in the upstate.
Yes, we are. You know, South Carolina, the fastest growing state in the nation in 2023 in terms of a percent growth, 1.7%. That's just a little trivia. You can take it off with you that I threw in there. Let's talk about the Greenville Tech Economic Impact Study.
Sure.
First of all, how often is something like this done? Is this
That's a great question.
first one? Or?
No, we actually perform these about once every decade. We update that data. That's part of our commitment to the community.
And that economic impact study is on your website, and we're going to have a link to it up here on the screen, probably a QR code like we normally do, so you can hop over there and check that out at your convenience. I was looking through the study, and I pulled out a couple of stats that I want to talk about, and so I'm going to tee you up here a little bit, and let's just run through a couple things. I'm reading, Greenville Technical College contributed $627 million to Greenville County in one fiscal year. That's a lot of money, $627 million. More than $500 million of economic impact comes from Greenville Tech. Where does that money go?
Great question.
Explain it to me.
So the biggest driver of that is our graduates, right? And so last year we produced over 3,000 of them. They enter into the workforce. They generate a lot of economic activity. That's our biggest contribution. But there are certainly secondary effects, like we employ over 1,000 people in our community. We're a top 15 employer in Greenville County, so we certainly have an impact there. And then we've got, as we've talked about in earlier episodes, Rick, a lot of construction projects happening on campus, and those construction projects generate a lot of economic growth and activity in the community. So those are three big sources.
What kind of benchmarking do you use to know what kind of economic development impact a graduate might have on the economy?
Right. So what we look at there and what we're most laser focused on, our mission is to change students' lives. And we identify that and hold ourselves accountable to helping our students earn more than they would have had they come to us. So one measure in there that your listeners should pay attention to is lifetime earnings. And a graduate of our programs will earn on average nearly $400,000 more in a lifetime than they would have with only a high school diploma.
They're going to make $400,000 more if they get a 2-year degree as opposed to a high school diploma.
2-year degree or a certificate from us, yes.
Oh, even a certificate like a mechatronics
Correct.
certificate or
Correct.
something like that.
That's correct.
Got it. There's another stat that I want to get into, and I don't understand this one, so I look forward to your explanation. For every dollar invested by taxpayers, Greenville Tech delivers a $4 return over the course of the graduates' working lives. That sounds really impressive. Explain it to me.
I will try. So that's just looking at referencing that additional $400,000 in lifetime earnings. That individual is going to pay additional taxes because they're earning more. And so that's the return to the taxpayer. And we've got to be conscious of that and accountable for the investment that Greenville taxpayers make in our college.
Well, that makes perfect sense. That's completely logical. Let's get into workforce development challenges. Was that addressed in the economic impact study?
Not necessarily in that study, but through our partnership, Rick, and we were talking a minute ago about our mutual friend, Carlos Phillips, CEO of the Greenville Chamber, whose board I serve on. And Carlos and he has set out a clear vision, along with the state of South Carolina, to achieve what are called the Ascend 60 by 30 targets. So let me unpack that for your listeners. That's 60% of our workforce we want to have a college degree or credential of value by 2030. So we're sitting here, it's 2024, we've got 6 years to go. Where are we right now on that goal, and why do we care about it? Let me answer the second question first. We care about it because if we hit it as a county, 60%, we see $3.88 billion in additional per capita income available to share. So a much larger economic pie for all of us to share in. In 2009, Greenville County was at 39%. In 2022, we're at about 52.4%. So we've grown dramatically. So we've got 7.6 percentage points to go to hit that 2030 target. And we're really focused on doing that and making sure that all of the Greenville residents have a fair shot at making out that 60% target.
Switching gears here a little bit,
Yeah.
Does the economic impact study tell you what industries are most served by your graduates? Now, I'm assuming healthcare, of
Sure.
course, and things like that. And so that's somewhat obvious. But how about the not so obvious industries?
Yeah, that's a great question. So your listeners may not be aware that one of our top 4 programs is cybersecurity. So we produce a lot of cybersecurity analysts. And one thing your listeners may also not be aware of and viewers is that South Carolina has 22% fewer cyber analysts than other states of a similar size. So we've got a shortfall there, and the state's working hard to close that gap.
Larry, let's continue to talk about our students here for a second. I think as time has gone on, it is more and more common these days for someone to get a degree from a 2-year school,
Yes.
as opposed to a 4-year school than it was, I think, when I went to school, which was a long time ago.
Sure.
I think that the stigma of a 2-year school has changed dramatically, as well it should, whether it be a community college or a technical
Right.
college or something like that. First of all,
Yeah.
have you found that to be true?
Absolutely. Increasingly, we don't say is it a 2-year or a 4-year route. It's a both and. It's not an either or question. We've got lots of transfer opportunities for our students, and we even have a bachelor's degree program at Greenville Tech. So
Right.
we're part of that continuum.
I realize you do. The point being that there's a lot of folks who, it used to be that if they weren't going to get a 4-year degree, they just wouldn't go to school potentially,
right. Yep.
right? And now you have a 2-degree or a 2-year degree option, an associate's degree. But there's still a lot of folks that might not want to go at all.
Yeah.
And so what do you say to those students who might be considering, I'm just going to go straight into the workforce?
Right. That's a great question. I would say that there's 2 answers we have to that. First, we have the largest dual enrollment program in the state, Rick. It's serving nearly 3,000 students this semester. So
know that.
we give our students a chance to start going to college while they're in high school for free.
Right.
So a pretty low risk proposition.
And let's start just by defining the dual enrollment for
Sure.
viewers who may not know.
So dual enrollment just means that you're earning high school and college credits simultaneously while you're in high school.
Right. Okay.
So and so that's one opportunity. And then when we're meeting with students, whether through dual enrollment or on the recruiting trail, one of the things we learned from our economic impact study is that the ROI, the return to the student of going to college and the investment that they would outlay is about 30%, which is much higher than the S&P 500 or the stock market
That's right.
return is. So it's a lesson that our parents taught us. You didn't need an impact study to tell you that the best investment you can make is in yourself, and this data backs that up.
Larry, Greenville Tech, and all schools do this, but I'm very aware of how Greenville Tech works with local companies and local industries to satisfy their needs, to work toward meeting their needs in terms of workforce issues. I know you get together with manufacturers to talk about, hey, next year I'm going to need to hire 6 of these and 14 of these and 32 of these.
Yep.
How does that work? Give us an idea of just how that relationship works between the college and your industry partners who are looking to you to help them.
Yeah. The best way when it works at its best is that companies and industries are represented on one of our 40 advisory boards for our programs. And they meet twice a year, and they are bringing information about what their demand looks like and also what changes we have to make to our curriculum to keep up with innovation that's happening in industry. So when all that information is flowing, that's helping us. The other thing that we do is we're constantly looking at the horizon to see what high demand, high paying jobs are in highest need. And we're trying to grow the programs to serve those needs best, to help serve our students.
What sectors benefit the most?
So the biggest sectors that we serve right now would be our healthcare would probably be number one. Number two, advanced manufacturing, and in particular, our mechatronics program is probably our biggest program in that area. But really, across all the manufacturing spaces, Rick, we're just seeing tremendous growth in terms of demand and the interest of students. Our enrollment is up 13 percentage points this fall. We're over 12,000 students, which is fantastic. And then on the flip side, we're seeing really high demand still in areas like machine tool technology and CNC programming. And there's exciting innovation happening in there. Like a CNC machine is only maybe a 20, 25-year innovation. And now we've got cobots that are operating 4 CNC machines simultaneously. So the skill set that's required to keep up with that is advancing really quick and attracting a new generation of students.
You know, you guys and all the other educational institutions as well work really hard to partner with your industry partners to try and give them what they need, as we were talking about. However, we still have a lot of workforce challenges.
We do.
In the advanced manufacturing industry, it is a tough job. It's trouble. We're having trouble finding people. Mm-hmm. And I want to have the conversation with you here that I've had with a couple other folks here recently.
Sure.
And it's this. I think that there is still a stigma associated with manufacturing jobs to some degree. Mm-hmm. Nothing like it used to be, of course. However, as I've said before, this ain't your daddy's manufacturing anymore, right? The jobs today are much different. They're much better. They're cooler, right? They pay a whole heck of a lot more, and you can get them with a 2-year degree. I think the key is we have to be able to talk to parents and convince parents that this ain't your daddy's manufacturing.
Right. Yeah. I agree with you, and I think our Center for Manufacturing Innovation and the next building will be opening, which is our Center for Welding and Automation Excellence, are examples that reflect the advanced technology and environment that students will work in when they graduate from us. In that sense, we want to keep up with our industry partners, so our facilities are helping do that. And I just want to say to parents who are listening, I don't think it's a choice between a 2-year degree in these great jobs and a 4-year degree. It's a 2-year degree now, get a great job with great earnings potential, right? Our mechatronics technicians are averaging over $70,000 a year coming out with a 2-year degree. And those companies are investing in their 4-year degrees and beyond so that they have a pathway to promotion, because the companies want to retain that talent. That's part of the talent war that's happening out there. So it's just a new pathway that wasn't available to our generation. I wish I knew it was, and I wish it existed then.
I'm going to get you out of here on this. The economic impact study also talks about some other things. It talks about how the college impacts the quality of life for the people that live in Greenville County. Give us a couple of examples of how that occurs.
Sure. Well, I think one of the studies, and I don't have the exact statistics on it, but an educated workforce actually lives longer. So if you want to count it, it really could boil it down to longer life expectancy and also a healthier life expectancy. So that's something we would like to take credit for and remind folks of. And the other part of it is we enjoy a really low unemployment rate in our community. We have high workforce participation rates. When everyone's chipping in, the community feels a lot better, like everyone's carrying their fair share and contributing and working well together. So I would take, our college and my colleagues should take a lot of credit for those efforts, as well as our graduates and our students.
I said that was the last thing I was going to ask you, but I lied. I want to ask you one more thing. Look into your crystal ball. Take a look into the future. What kind of initiatives are on the horizon? What kind of programs you got? What can we expect out of Greenville Tech?
Great question, Rick. Advanced Manufacturing 4.0 is going to rely heavily on AI and machine learning, okay? And so you can expect more announcements on investments in programming in that space, but also, and to our point earlier in our conversation, the more automation that comes, the more from the Internet of Things, the more the technology invades that space to generate productivity and quality enhancement gains in the manufacturing sector, you're also introducing more cyber threats. So we've got to harden the shop floor to those threats. So our graduates have to be ready to take advantage of and the best of AI-powered automation and innovation and protect against its threats.
I thought I was going to get through an episode where we did not talk about artificial intelligence. However, it did not occur. Sorry. You snuck it right there in the end. But you're exactly right. AI is within every industry these days, and pretty much every business topic is touched by AI in one way or the other. Larry, good stuff, man.
Thank you, Rick.
I appreciate you being here. Folks, that is Dr. Larry Miller, really smart guy, Vice President of Learning and Workforce Development at Greenville Technical College. And that completes another episode of Let's Talk Business South Carolina. See you next time.